It's the first time we're doing an episode, and I literally just feel sad. I've been waiting for the information to be released on the Breonna Taylor case that was brought to the grand jury, only to find out that now that information is gonna be delayed. The whole thing makes me sad, but that news, it deflated me. It deflated me, right? So, Breonna Taylor, I know you know the case. Folks have been fighting, her family, her attorneys, protesters.
I definitely know the case, but I mean, you really been, I think it hit you hard today because you've been on this, like, from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so folks have been fighting really hard to get justice for Breonna, as they have been calling it. I can't imagine anybody listening to the podcast would not be familiar with this case, but police showed up to her home with a no-knock warrant. Though they say they knocked, I don't know why. They say they knocked, they showed up with a no-knock warrant. When her boyfriend heard the noises from the door, he fired a warning shot, thinking that there were intruders in their home. Police opened fire inside the apartment. They ended up killing Breonna Taylor. Many shots were fired. So recently, there was then this grand jury ruling on the case. Everybody had been waiting for this, and everybody thought there was finally going to be justice for her. But what happened, out of the 3 officers that everybody thought would get charged with killing this woman, only one of the officers got charged with anything. And what he got charged for was shooting into one of the apartments adjacent to hers. And since then, a ballistics report came back. And what that ballistics report shows is that they cannot verify that her boyfriend's gun was the one that shot one of the police officers. So this is what they had been saying all along. He shot one of the police officers, they returned fire. Now they can't verify that. And then there's this other bit of information that came out where at first in the media we were told all the police officers had a certain kind of gun. Well, now it turns out one of the police officers had the same kind of gun as Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. So the officer that was shot could have been shot by friendly fire from his fellow officer. So all these bits of information are starting to seep out and causing, not only myself, but so many people to feel like there's information, purposely being covered up. And then finally, after this grand jury ruling that got everybody in an uproar, only one officer being charged with, I think they call it like wanton endangerment because bullets went into one of the other apartments. No charges brought against anybody for the killing of Breonna Taylor. The Attorney General of Kentucky at a point saying that he couldn't justify pressing charges for her killing. And all of that was attached to the shooting, the boyfriend supposedly hitting the police officer and then the police officers returning fire. So this was in self-defense. But all of these things, all these justifications are starting to fall apart. And it's bringing Black Americans to a place that we've really been stuck in for such a long time. the thought process that the reason all this covering up is happening and all this wrong information or bad information is very simply because she's Black. That, it's as simple as that. That her Black life didn't matter, doesn't matter. And hers is one of many, many, many cases. But we're watching this one fall apart. We're watching evidence prove that people are lying. We now have a grand juror who filed a lawsuit to get the information released for what information was given to the grand jury. That doesn't happen. That's not a precedent. That information isn't supposed to come out. It doesn't usually come out. And so that information was supposed to come out Wednesday morning. That's what since Monday, Wednesday morning, that we're gonna know what happened with the grand jury. We're gonna know what information was really given to them. We're gonna find out that it's true that Attorney General Cameron never even brought the option to press charges against these other police officers. He never presented a case specifically about Breonna Taylor's killing. And now it's delayed. And so, so Monday, we're all excited because on Wednesday, we're gonna get this information about what was asked of the grand jury. We were finally going to get to see what Attorney General Cameron actually asked the grand jury to give a verdict on. And now it's delayed. It feels like just yet another slap in the face to Black Americans.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to start, and I was very silent because the tone and how you're speaking is how a lot of Americans feel right now. And I say Americans. You see, I didn't say Black Americans, just Americans in general. Like at the end of the day, we're going through a storm of 2020. Everything has been a storm. The only thing that I would say to add to what you're saying is if everybody, and as y'all know, I'm like new, like this is not new to me. Like whether if it's Trayvon, whether we all have to speak our opinions and our feelings and how we feel. We all have to protest. But we at a level right now where it's a political game being played on the American people, period. And we can see that. And at the end of the day, it's so important that we remember this word that Martin Luther King and different of our leaders have fought for. Kennedy, different ones. Justice. And at the end of the day, we really have to be, because we all keep going back to the Constitution, right? But even like when you go within the Constitution and as we progress as a nation, like there's just certain things like we have to use common sense when it comes to that. And we living in America right now, just the tone of the nation, and I definitely side you on this, 3 trillion%. I feel like we're being played as the pawns at this point. And like we're like the pawn pieces to the big chess game, which is higher than us. I mean, you watched the debate. You watched the debate last night, which was like lucha libre.
I couldn't even sleep.
Well, I mean, I slept because I knew it would be lucha libre. I slept because they both were sleeping while you was awake at the end of the day. But it was like, when you're watching this, let me tell, I kid you, man, I don't have my phone. So this is what, okay, so I wasn't gonna talk about the debate, but something just struck me. And I'm not getting off a topic of what you're saying. But to your topic and to your point, what we can't do is, with the idea of being sad means, okay, I'm sad, I'm gonna sit back. We can't be passive. I think that's the English word, like laid back. Like this is the time when you hit the streets with peaceful protests. But it's like, this is the time where you increase it. So whatever you was doing for George Floyd, and when you say like say their names, it's like literally every state, every town, everyone has exactly what we're doing right now, because our power is behind a microphone, right? And no one can say we haven't physically been to protest. So we constantly fight when it comes to protests. Then the next generation keep fighting. But we cannot be passive, because when this happens in politics, they're taking the temperature of the people. This is what's going on right now. So it's important that we let people know that we don't agree with what's going on. This is not just, and it can't keep happening over and over again.
Right.
So
I don't even think, by the way, as far as things have gotten, even getting to the grand jury, even though the whole thing feels just like a farce to me at this point, but even getting to the point of charging any of those officers would never have happened if people had not been protesting.
And I'm grabbing my phone, right, which I don't usually do. I don't think she'll mind me sharing this. So my daughter is in boarding school. Very, Angie.
Angelina,
your goddaughter. So she's 15.
Yeah.
And then so I'm like, okay. I said, the debate has started. And the minute I said the debate started, and this is important because this is a 15-year-old. Like, I'm not she's on TikTok, all kind of things.
Yeah.
I said the debate has started, and she sends this picture. She's like, I'm watching. like, so dude, don't even tell me the debate has started. I'm watching. So, and then I go, well, I wonder where you get your political side from, you know what I mean? And then she goes, yes, sir. Like, this is what's interesting. Then she goes on WhatsApp, and she just starts to go off. And this is so important to understand the mind of the youth and how they moving, you know what I'm saying to you? So, and once again, it's not a right thing or a left thing. It's because she's gonna have to make her decisions. But if a 15-year-old young girl is speaking, I at least want to know, I have to express as a dad her point of view.
Yeah.
Because I don't wing any side on her, because like I tell you, the family, we always talk about Democrats, Republican, Independent, but it was interesting. So the first thing she says is, can Trump stop talking over him, right?
Everybody said that.
But I'm just saying, this is a 15-year-old. And I said, okay, this debate's about to start off, and as you can see, it's gonna be like a bloodbath. And then she goes, facts. But this is so interesting. This is important, and I will not mess up her words because I have to say exactly what she says. She go, either way, our country is Okay?
I wish I could write that to my dad when I was 15.
Okay, this is important. Like, okay, so this is because sometimes we're so loud that we not listening to the youth.
Yeah.
Like, so at the end of the day, she goes, me and my daughter, I think we got that relationship. Like, you ever watch Black as
Oh, yeah.
Like the way he's, like
I love that show.
She goes, either way, our country is She goes, Biden is terrible and Trump is the worst. Okay? So now I'm just telling you, this is so important to see how the youth is thinking, right? Then she automatically goes, Trump don't even have a plan for health care.
Right.
Like, he keeps saying that. Dad, what's his plan? I want to hear his plan right now. Then she goes in exclamation, Trump has no plan. Then she says, in the debate as they're doing the exchange with healthcare, she goes, Biden is right. Trump has no plan, right? So this is, and I'm wondering.
I know this made his
and the
entire
last thing
life.
I'm gonna say, which is kind of dope, is She goes, "You gotta be kidding me. Is Trump asking about his mask now?" And I say that because in her last words was like, you know, if this was what it was, I mean, I could have watched the kindergarten debate. And I'm only saying this as a 15-year-old is speaking to just say, like, what are we really doing? And so when you have, like, a 15-year-old girl who's speaking like that and her friends is having an opinion, and like you say, you see, I told you everything that she said.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you don't go out and vote, the people that really have the power to vote, I'm letting you know what your kids are saying. Like, at the end of the day, you have to make a choice. Like, she had to make a choice as she's like, oh, then she's like, but hold up. When it comes to this issue, you know, Biden's right. When it comes to, right? And then so I just think, like, as we move forward, it's so important. And I always refer to the book, The Art of War, the idea of, you know, the distraction on one side and people falling for the distraction. That's why I was like, I'm not going to talk about the debate, but as you were speaking, it came to me and I was like, holy shit, let me just pull the point of view of a young person who's just watching it, you know what I mean? So that's really where it's at. I just think that, and I'm gonna say this over and over again, in order to get to a point of justice, right? You can't be passive. So Clef is not telling anybody out there, because I know what people like to do. They love using the celebrities' sound bites. So they'll be like, yo, Clef just told his like millions of followers on Twitter. Once again, I'm not down with no looting. I'm not down with no vandalism, tearing down your community. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, you cannot sit back, feel sad, and let that take over you. The emotion and all the people that are following you right now, that look up to you, as I leave this, and you was to give them like one last word based on what you see, what's your call of action? Because you've been following the case, and if I was to tell you if you was to give all the viewers that are watching this right now a call of action, what would that be?
Yeah.
That would be the last question from me to you this time.
My call to action would be, it's exactly what we're talking about. It would be, we have to continue to protest, in whatever form that is. There are those who are out and marching. There are those who are using their platform where their voices are heard by many. That's a form of protest. When you have a big platform and you use that platform, sharing information, it just becomes so important. If you have 10 followers or 100 followers and you get information that is going to help people to stand up for what's right, share that information. So all of those forms of protest, I think, are very, very important, and a huge, huge call to action. Again, we've spoken about it, but vote early so that on election day, you're able to either be a poll worker or help get people to the polls or contribute in whatever way you can to make sure that people are voting. I was watching the debate and they were having this conversation about the fact that we might not actually know who won because of COVID and the mail-in ballots and everything. We might not know who won for weeks.
Yeah.
So that's just a reminder, should be a reminder to everybody to vote as early as we possibly can so that we can know who won in some reasonable amount of time. So that's my call to action, is be, like you said, don't live inside of what I'm feeling right now, but take action, march in whatever version of marching you're able to do, because there's online marching. There's social media marching, because marching, to me, it's symbolic. So you don't have to necessarily be outside on the street doing it if you can't, or even if you choose not to. You can march online, you can march on your social media, you can march in any way that's possible, any way that you can contribute to sharing information and to making those phone calls to the Attorney General's office and making those phone calls to your congressman's office and your senator's office, and making sure that people understand that we are not going to lift the pressure off of them until we see justice.